Welcome to our event. My name is Joel Bronkowski, and I'll be your MC/referee for this evening's event. Thank you for joining us. It looks like there's more than 80 of you, which is amazing. I know it's a really busy time with everyone running around, so thanks for staying indoors and joining us. Tonight's topic is one of the most fiercely debated and contested topics in the entire world of e-commerce, particularly here in South Africa. So, and with e-commerce becoming more relevant than ever and booming here, we hope that tonight you can finally come away with an answer to which e-commerce platform is better, Shopify versus WooCommerce. And personally, I'm really thrilled to be able to MC and host the debate a bit later, as I happen to have had the pleasure to work at WooThemes, which later became WooCommerce, and then entered the rocket ship at Shopify a few years ago, before taking a more Africa-focused role at Paystack, where I work now. So I guess I can be like the Switzerland of tonight, where I can sit in the middle somewhere. So as mentioned, we have two really fierce contenders for you. One hails from the north. She's one of just a few Shopify experts in the whole country. She was the first chosen recipient of a free trip to Toronto with Shopify Unite as a part of a program where we selected some partners there. She manages Maverick Marketing, which focuses on Shopify, and they're no strangers to the occasional Woo work. They've worked with clients such as Big Blue, New Era, and Rockport. So let's give it up for Melissa Rowlston. Before Melissa starts, I'm gonna introduce our other guest. He's based here in the chilly, windy city of Cape Town. He's a former e-commerce founder with a successful exit, SEO master, WordCamp speaker, WordPress lover, and the founder of Wow, an agency that's focused on WordPress. He's wowed his way to working with such brands as the Nelson Mandela Foundation, Old Mutual, and CBC Brewery. So let's give it up for Felix Norton. This evening, I'm gonna tell you how it's gonna work. You're gonna hear from both contestants, presenters, for 20, 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, we'll see how it goes. Following their talks, they're gonna put their gloves on and battle in a Q&A debate, which I'll be hosting. So please, if you have questions you'd like us to cover, feel free to share them, but we will only get to those during the debate and Q&A later. So without further ado, I'm gonna hand it over to Melissa Rowlston to take the stage and tell us why Shopify is the clear e-commerce platform of choice for South Africa. I know I can't hear you, but let's give it up for Melissa.
Thank you so much, Joel. Okay, so basically, yeah, hi everybody, and thanks for having me. And I'm Melissa, and I'm speaking on behalf of Shopify. I own Maverick Marketing and Maverick Web, and we are an e-commerce website design company. And we sometimes build using other platforms, as Joel alluded to, but we are Shopify experts. And so if it's e-commerce, it is Shopify. Let me just share my screen. Okay, I hope that's right. Okay, so basically, I'm going to speak to you today about my experience using Shopify. So I am no way employed by Shopify or endorsed to promote their product or anything. I just love Shopify. I think it's a fantastic, holistic e-commerce platform. And yeah, and based on that, I say go team Shopify. So I'd like to start with a poll. So I thought I would ask, how many stores do you think are built with Shopify worldwide? I like to get a feel for how big you think Shopify really is. So do you think 150,000? Do you think 500,000? Do you think 1 million? Or do you think 5 million? So if you all want to vote now, and we can get an idea, and then maybe I can just get the results. I don't know how long that will take, and I'm sure they'll let me know. But while we wait to get those, I'll carry on. Okay, so 1 million, 43% of you, and that is actually correct. So Shopify currently has, if we actually go back, it currently has 1 million at last count in 2019. In 2018, it had 800,000 online stores built with Shopify worldwide. So Shopify is really experiencing exponential growth at the moment. Shopify is the second largest growing e-commerce platform in the world after BigCommerce. It has a market share of 31% in the US and is the third largest market share in the world. When it went public in 2015, its IPO was $17. Its share price now sits around $1,000. So it truly is like a growing business. Not only is Shopify very popular as an e-commerce platform, it is very popular as a business concern. Shopify has a great reputation. It is the most popular e-commerce search term according to Google Trends. But I'm not here for a history lesson. A bit of background is that it was launched by two snowboarders who wanted an online store and could not find a platform to suit their needs. And it continues in this vein with a thriving Canadian culture that is very focused on its hip and progressive as well as community-focused environment. Shopify is dedicated to growth and is constantly in the news for its partnerships with the likes of Amazon and Facebook and Google. Sorry. This year, it is rolling out an independent $1 billion fulfillment service of its own. Okay, so poll 2. Let's get a feel for what everyone thinks when they think Shopify. What do you think Shopify is most well known for? Number 1, that it's expensive. Number 2, that anyone can do it. Number 3, that it is the most secure platform, e-commerce platform in the world. And number 4, that it is only used for small business. I ask this question as it is normally the type of question that people start asking when we start building for them. Interestingly, none of these are really incorrect or correct. That it's expensive, 19%. My opinion is that it's not really expensive, but we'll get to that. That anyone can do it, 55%, and I think this is 100% true. That is the most secure e-commerce platform in the world, that's 9%. However, this is true, it is the most secure e-commerce platform in the world, and that it is only for small business, 17%. This is completely false, but we'll get onto the reason why. Okay, so why do I love Shopify? In brief, and I'll go through these in more depth. Number 1, it is self-hosted. Number 2, the pricing is transparent. Number 3, it is incredibly scalable. Number 4 is it is easy to use. Number 5, it is an e-commerce first solution and it has an extremely strong, solid foundation. Number 6, you have full access to the code. 7, it is fully integrated and integratable. And number 8, it is for small business, big business, and colossal size business. Okay, so the first point is it is self-hosted. And what does this mean and why should you care? So believe it or not, I love this fact because it becomes a non-fact. It is something I don't have to worry about. It doesn't become a headache when I'm starting to build. And it is a major draw card for why we get new clients on Shopify and why so many of our clients migrate over from Magento and WooCommerce. It is actually the primary reason for most of our Magento migrations. Magento has fees that rival Shopify Plus. So you're looking at about $20,000 per month. And then you're adding servers and hosting, and you still cannot be insured of uptime, which is a major problem. Shopify has its own CDN, which basically is a network of servers, which means it's always up. It has a 99.98% guarantee that it will always be up. It has unlimited bandwidth and a level 1 PCI compliance. So in terms of security, you can't beat them either. We find in South Africa that the big stores use Magento and the smallest stores use WooCommerce. This might be a generalization, and I'm sure we'll debate it just now. But we have more migrations due to traffic with Magento, and with Woo, we have more migrations due to hacking. So the security becomes the big issue. We have migrations also from Woo to Shopify due to speed issues. And often we don't know if this is because of degradation of a site or because of server issues. And both are solved easily with Shopify. Maintenance is handled, so is rolling backups, and you don't need to manage these through a host. These are done through Shopify, and your speed is sorted because it's blazing fast. Shopify actually encourages hackers to try and breach their security protocols as a way to ensure that they are first class in terms of their PCI compliance. In short, self-hosted servers through Shopify ensures uptime, speed, and security. A great case study is the story of Kylie Cosmetics. So you can see over here, Kylie Cosmetics is just one of my favorite websites. Kylie Jenner launched it when she was 17 years old. She had $250,000, and she decided she was going to have an online store, and she was going to sell her lip kits through it. That's all she sells is a lip kit, and they're $29 each, and she only sells them online, or she only sold them online. Sometimes she does pop-up stores now. On her launch day, she sold out of everything within 60 seconds after posting to her 140 million Instagram followers that she had launched. It is insane, and that is really speaking to server integrity on Shopify. Now, on an average day, Kylie has 100,000 visitors online at any given time. And as soon as she announces a new shade on Instagram, that can double. So she is on Shopify Plus, but the server integrity just stands. Okay, number 2 reason why I love Shopify, and this is fees. Now, everyone moans about Shopify fees. It's the one line shutdown on any Shopify versus WooCommerce debate. And that is always, but Shopify is expensive. The truth is, Shopify has fees. There's a monthly fee and there are transaction fees when you do not use their payment gateway. And you can't use their payment gateway in South Africa. So yes, it is strange that I have put this as a reason why I love Shopify. And maybe it's the capitalist in me that has no problem paying for what closed source entitles me to. But really, Shopify is a business that continues to grow and to invest in the development of its platform. It tests, it grows, and it innovates. It is a trailblazer, and you know that every single process that has been developed has been clearly tested. So for example, Shopify has perfected the user experience of checkout for optimal conversion. And this is due to investment. Everything Shopify does is based on the fact that they run their business like a business. But in practical terms, what you are getting for your fees is more than just that. You are actually getting day-to-day costs, which are your hosting, your security, your maintenance, your backups, your speed, and your support. And these are fees that are transparent on Shopify from the get-go. And you are going to pay these if you are using WooCommerce or Magento anyway. It's just if you use WooCommerce or Magento, you're going to have to find the best partner and manage these and pay for these on your own and just hope that you get them right. Most of our migration clients actually say that these hidden costs actually cost them way too much. And at least Shopify, they are transparent. Okay, my next reason I love Shopify is scalability. And this is actually the reason why I've stayed with Shopify and I haven't moved on to other platforms as my business has grown, because as you can imagine, you do get bored when you're building and you want new challenges, etc. And if you had to build the same site over again, it would be dire. So as a developer, Shopify has really grown with me, and its capacity for scale is immense. And when I speak of scale, I mean it on 3 fronts. The first is products. Shopify can handle single inventory stores all the way up to 100,000 product stores like a Magento site would. It natively handles up to 100 variants per product. And these you can have 3 different selection options. So for example, you could have size, color, and design. And this is in itself scale. However, we recently built a nuts and bolts store, which has 500 variants per product. And that just shows how customizable Shopify can be. Oh, sorry, I'm going ahead of myself. Okay. Number 2 is traffic. I have explained how Shopify servers work and how it can handle traffic. And as a wise man once said to me, Shopify is the only platform that you can sleep easy on during Black Friday. Number 3, okay, complexity and customization. And this has become my true love of Shopify. Maverick Web has been built around the fact that we are able to custom build any website for you on Shopify. We take pride in the fact that we can do it, and we can make completely diverse websites. We make websites that are simple stores and just sell basic stuff, but we also make websites that are complex, such as complex wholesale, multi-tiered, locked sites with multiple pricing to different audience, from wholesale, B2B to B2C. We do subscription boxes and models. We do sophisticated bundling and packaging. We do websites that look 100% custom, and you would never know that they're Shopify. We build custom themes. We customize basic themes. The world is our oyster when we use Shopify. Having said that, Shopify has a reputation for not being the easiest to make content beautiful on. And it's 100% true. You can customize your homepage, but really that's it if you don't understand Shopify to its full extent. And your theme in itself determines a lot of the look and the feel and the flexibility you have around that anyway. Themes can cost you anything from nothing to up to $450 a pop. And our gameplay is either we use a free theme or we go top of the range straight away, $450 a pop. Our favorite theme is called Felix, and it's from Out of the Sandbox. And yes, it is almost 9,000 Rand for a theme alone. And it is amazing. It allows for manipulation of the CSS in the customizer. It is sectionalized to the hilt. It integrates so much natively that it requires so few additional integral apps. And then when we don't use it, actually, I feel like I'm using a Nokia 3310. It is just the most amazing thing to use. And it allows for true customization. Otherwise, we really do customize our own themes. And that is how you can scale with Shopify. And then when it comes to making content on Shopify look great, this is the fun part. This is the part that you aren't able to do if you're not a developer. You know, this is when Shopify is not easy, and you need a team to do it. And you know, that's where we come in, and that's where we start having fun. When it comes to making sophisticated logic and flows and systems, again, this is what we are good at, and this is what we do, and this is why Shopify is so amazing, because it truly allows for customization and scalability on a really solid foundation. And it is beautiful to do it on, and we can build anything on it. And the reason for this is because we have access to the code. The real power of Shopify is immense when you know what you're doing with it. And we've become an agency that can whip up a simple website in a couple of days to an agency that can custom exactly what you want. Okay. I'm going to tell you a case study of talking about scalability in terms of traffic. Sorry, I'm very bad at this. Which is Gymshark. So Gymshark was on Magento during Black Friday in 2015, and they went down for 8 hours during like the heat of Black Friday, and they lost $143,000 in sales. This was 2015. They predicted that if it had been in 2019, they would have lost 10 times that amount in sales. And so they moved to Shopify, and they moved to Shopify fast. Now they make approximately $42 million a year, and they sleep easy on Black Friday. So My next poll, based on the Gymshark case study, is how many transactions can a Shopify store process in a day? And what are your opinions? Up to 15, up to 100, up to 1,000, or more than that, up to 5,000 plus? And what does everyone think? Okay, so the results are in and everyone is correct. So I've got 88% saying over 5,000 orders a day, 0 say 15, up to 100 is 2%. So interestingly, if you're on the basic plan, you're allowed to process 500 orders a month. So that's the up to 15. If you are on Shopify Plus, the sky is truly the limit. To put that into perspective, on Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend last year, Shopify saw $2.9 billion in total sales. They processed $1.5 million in sales and 16,000 checkouts per minute, which is insane. And they didn't have any problems with their server integrity. A great case study is Bombas, which they were actually on Magento and they moved across to Shopify. Their biggest issue was they were processing 500 orders a day and they grew so significantly. Suddenly they were processing 4,000, more than 4,000 orders a day, and their servers could not cope. And each time they would crash, and this would take their website down for a couple of weeks at a time. And each time they had to patch the Magento website, they were forking out approximately $150,000 per patch, which was just exorbitant. So they moved over from Magento onto Shopify to help them with their traffic, their orders, to process all their orders. And I know that I talk a lot about Magento, and we're talking Woo today, but I often think of Magento as WooCommerce's open source big brother, that if Magento can't handle it, then Woo's in big trouble. So just bear with me. Okay, so then the next reason why I love Shopify is ease of use. Not only is it very easy to design in if you want a basic e-commerce website, you're just adding products and a front page. That's very easy. I mean, if you want a sophisticated look and theme, look and feel, and you're going for content customization, you do need a developer. But the real bliss of using Shopify is its ease of use in its back end. Once it is built, it is the easiest platform to manage. Its dashboard is simple and intuitive. It is easy to load products, to issue discount codes, to manage orders, and everything can be integrated from your ERP, your accounting, your Facebook shop, your Instagram shop, everything. And Shopify requires so little maintenance in comparison to something like Woo, my apologies, we're not there yet. And it is a dream to use and run, and has really the backups, etc., are integrated into its system. So many of its processes are integrated into the setup system. Okay, the next reason why I love Shopify is it's an e-commerce first foundation. So unlike other platforms which are website first, Shopify is e-commerce first. So if you're choosing e-commerce, you choose a Shopify. You know that basically you're there for the selling, and it's just going to do that primarily. It's going to do that first. Shopify is not a plugin. It is a platform, and I don't really need to say anything more here. It also has the most extensive, solid foundation built on a lot of money going into the research and development. And this comprehensive development infrastructure really does provide a strong foundation to build on. And I think that is the reason why it outstrips custom builds all the time, because what you can do on it for that kind of pricing, you could never do with the custom build. Okay, then basically it is fully integrated and integrates fully. So this is a great selling point in today's market. No website can function as an island. Shopify integrates totally as an omni-channel with other stores. So you can integrate it with Amazon and eBay, your Facebook shop, your Instagram shop, Pinterest, Snapchat, and Bid or Buy in South Africa. So you've got your omni-channel set up. It integrates with Obelo for drop shipping and with Google for Google Shopping ads. It also integrates with your point of sale, so Shopify POS or other POSs like Vend. So once again, multi-channel. And then you integrate everything else from your inventory management to your couriers, to your CRM, to all your third-party payment gateways, to your mail servers, and then a host of other apps, your loyalty apps, your wholesaler apps, your locks, etc. So you really can't go wrong. And when I say fully integrated, I don't even want to know how many thousands of apps there are that we can actually add to Shopify as well. So in summary, why do I really love Shopify? And I think I hope I have explained why I love it. And I really do love building on it. But it is scalability redefined. It can handle small, tiny shops, moms and pops, and anyone can get them up and selling. It can handle your little boutique shop where you've got one brick and mortar. It can handle big, it can handle wholesalers, it can handle multinationals, it can handle Kylie Cosmetics. It can handle small, big, or colossal, truly. So in closing, it's my final poll, and I'm going to ask you why you think, or why now, you wouldn't build an e-commerce site with Shopify. And I know it's a bit cheeky at this stage, but what are your opinions? Okay, so it's price, lack of experience, peer pressure, and other unanswered concerns that I haven't dealt with. So price is coming up there, 42%, and I'd hoped I'd addressed that. Lack of experience, 30%, peer pressure 4%, and then the other unanswered concerns, 25%, which I hope we can address. And thank you so much for hearing me out, and I look forward to our debate. Thanks.
All right, thanks so much, Melissa. That was really super insightful. Thanks so much. And to all of the people tuning in, thank you for all the great questions. I'm answering the ones that I think we might not get to, and taking notes of the ones that I think will be a good fit. So we will get to those. All right. So, Mr. Felix Norton, no pressure, bud, but the floor is now yours to share all about the Woo. Over to you.
Thanks for that kind introduction, Joel. Loving the bow tie. I see that you came fully prepared, as did I. Got my gloves. So, wow, that was a really cool talk. Thanks, Melissa. I learned a couple interesting things there. So let's see what happens when we take it from another perspective, because I think you raised some incredibly valid points, and yeah, let's just jump right in. So I'm going to share my screen. Cool. Alrighty. Okay, so my talk today is called Win with Woo. I like my alliteration. And today we're going to talk about why e-commerce wins with WooCommerce. So before we get into that, a little bit about myself. My name is Felix Norton. I am a former UCT ComSci student, so I studied ComSci at university. I like to consider myself an aspiring entrepreneur. So over the years, I've dabbled in custom app development and programming. I started an app development agency. I had this idea of creating art with machine learning. So you could feed a computer a style of art and a photo, and you could create something new. I got into the whole cryptocurrency craze and built my own mining rigs and mined cryptocurrency before the big crashes. I started and still run a very successful digital agency called Wow. I've built my own e-commerce sites and sold them. And I'm now currently getting into creating online courses to share the knowledge that we've learned over the years. So, and at my agency, my current focus is on SEM, search engine marketing, and I'm going to get into a little bit of that later on. So, cool. So at my agency, WOW, we like to take this idea of holistic web design, i.e. for a website to succeed online, it's more than just, e-commerce and hosting and design and marketing. It's the combination of everything together. But for today's focus, we're just going to look at e-commerce and in particular WooCommerce. So today's key talking points, we're going to talk about intellectual property, WordPress and the WooCommerce community. We're going to talk about flexibility and customization of WooCommerce, the cost effectiveness of WooCommerce, the marketing potential leveraging SEO for WooCommerce, and hopefully we're also going to debunk some myths along the way. Cool. So intellectual property. So ownership of your e-commerce site versus use of a platform. So to understand WooCommerce, we've got to take a bit of a step back and we first got to understand what WordPress is. So simply put, WordPress is a website builder, but on a slightly more technical level, WordPress is an open source content management system, which is licensed under the GPL version 2. And what this means is that anyone can use or modify the WordPress software for free. So this is also quite an important distinction to note against WordPress.org and WordPress.com. WordPress.org is the software that we're talking about, and WordPress.com is a software as a service that almost rents out WordPress as a package, like a self-managed platform. And that's kind of what Shopify is as well. It's a self-managed platform. So WooCommerce is a customizable and open source e-commerce platform built on top of WordPress. So essentially, WooCommerce is the e-commerce extension of WordPress. So when you're building Woo, you're actually building WordPress, but it's a technical distinction. And what's great about WooCommerce, because it's WordPress, it means you can modify it freely and you truly own your website because it's yours, you created it. But with great power also comes great responsibility. Because you are more in control, that also means that you have greater responsibility with maintaining and managing your site. So how does this compare to Shopify? Well, Shopify is a managed platform, it's a software as a service. And what that means is that it's got easier user experience for basic tasks. It's easy to get onto Shopify. However, you don't own your site. You have access, and you have access to your files and your code, but you actually don't control your data. All of that sits on Shopify's services, Shopify's servers. And you're also limited by what Shopify wants to give you control over. So they can change what they want to give you access to at any time. And it also means that when you want to change anything that isn't included out of the box, it can become a lot harder to do. Other thing is you must also obey Shopify's T's and C's, which means that sometimes you as a business can't actually transact with Shopify. Say, for example, you're in the health products industry and maybe selling CBD oil or something like nutraceuticals. You actually can't transact with Shopify payments. They block your store. So Shopify isn't actually a solution for everyone. And that's something, it's a very important consideration to be aware of when you're building your business and picking a platform, is that you've got to read the T's and C's of what you can do and what you can't do on the platform. Whereas with WooCommerce, because it's WordPress and it's open source, you can do whatever you want. Cool. So let's talk about that WordPress community. And fun fact, 37% of the entire internet is WordPress. And that number is growing every year. And when we compare that to Shopify, Shopify comes in at 2.7%. So Shopify really has a small market share of the total number of websites, but it also has a smaller share of the e-commerce share. The difference is smaller, but WooCommerce still comes out on top. It's the top 1 million websites. 21% of all e-commerce websites are being run by Woo. And a further 28% if you take the total global market share is WooCommerce, which is great. So there's a huge amount of WooCommerce websites out there. Now, because WooCommerce is open source, you've got this huge community of digital professionals and do-it-yourself users. And you've got this open source culture, which means that it's very developer friendly. And so there's tons of blogs on content tutorials, and it's all for free because that's the whole, deal of Shopify. Unlike Shopify, which is a business and they're just trying to get you to use their service, WordPress doesn't make money by you using their platform. They build the platform because they want to build it to make the web a better place. And interesting fact, WooCommerce is actually proudly South African. It was acquired by Automatic, who own WordPress.com, but it's South African, so support local. Then we get into some kind of flexibility and the customization of WooCommerce, and why some websites look good when others don't, and why WooCommerce sites look amazing. So I'm going to run a quick poll here. Who's ever built a website before? And if you have, cool, it'd be great to see. I'm not actually going to look at the answers right now, but let's kind of jump ahead. So because there is such a huge community, and because WordPress and WooCommerce is so omnipresent, there are these incredible marketplaces like ThemeForest, where you can go and you can get over 1,300 different WooCommerce themes. And they're very cost effective, not dealing with 9,000 Rand level themes here. The premium ones generally sit in the range of about $60. And with them, you can build incredible sites. One of our favorite e-commerce themes is one called Flatsum, which is the one in the bottom left over here. But we actually, as an agency, prefer to use page builders like Elementor, Divi, and Beaver Builder. And what these page builders do is they give us the ability to use these kind of building blocks, and with a powerful theme, we can create any type of website that we want with absolutely no coding or development experience required. You don't need to be a programmer to make a great looking site. And that's one of the huge selling points of WordPress and WooCommerce, is that it's beautiful to look at and it's easy for people to do. And just to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like, here is one theme called Astra, which is what we're moving over to. And here are just 12 different websites, which all look amazing and all look very different. And they're all built using the same single theme. And what's great about the theme is that there's a great free version, and half of these are possible in the free version. Or if you want to buy it, it's something like $60. And you can do all of this and you can use it again and again, compared to paying 9,000 Rand for a Shopify theme. So yeah, WooCommerce is just great to build beautiful sites. And because of the large scale and open source community, WooCommerce powers more than just online stores. WooCommerce is very flexible, so it can be used for creating online courses, ticketing and event management systems, online bookings for appointments and professional services, online marketplaces like Takealot or Amazon, although you wouldn't be able to build Amazon, subscription services, or even during COVID, we've been building a ton of restaurant ordering systems all on WooCommerce. And it's cost effective. It also means that there's always a plugin or integration for a popular tool or service. So if you want to connect things with Zapier, you want to add a purchase, someone's purchase order to your mailing list, pay with PayPal, then handle that in your accounting system with Xero, analyze your site with Google Analytics, send traffic to your site with Google Ads and Facebook, or integrate with your favorite courier. WooCommerce does it all. And because of the barrier to entry to the platform, there's a lot more integration. So Melissa mentioned something like thousands of Shopify apps. Well, actually, if you go look at Shopify apps, there's only 1,200 integrations, whereas WooCommerce has 50,000, or WordPress has 50,000 plugins. Again, with great power comes great responsibility. Not all of them are great, but there are options. So cost effectiveness. So how much does it cost to run an online store? So quick poll. Now imagine you have a website that turns over 100,000 Rand a month in sales from roughly 100 orders. So we're looking at about a cart average price of around about 1,000 Rand per transaction. And would this come in under 5,000, between 5 and 10,000, or over 10,000 Rand to run a site this month? So let's find out. So quick crash course in hosting and transaction fees. What are the variables? So you've got two primary variables. So the first variable are your hosting fees. So because WooCommerce and WordPress are self-hosted, you'd use somebody like Xnilo or WP Engine, Bluehost, and or if we're talking about a product like Shopify or BigCommerce, that's going to be your Shopify plan. And those fees can range between 100 Rand on the low end and about 5,200 Rand on the higher end. And then you have your transaction fees. So this is actually the fee you pay when you sell a product. So when you're buying something, you pay a small commission to process that payment. And that's going to be your PayPal, your PayGate, your PayFast, your PayPay, Yoko, Peach, or Shopify itself. Shopify has actually got its own payment processor. And depending on which combination you choose, this can be between 2.6% and 5.5% of the sale of the product. And some of them get more complicated, like charging monthly subscription fees. And then some of them get even more complicated when you charge your base percentage, and then you also add a fee per transaction. So it will be 3% and R1.50 per transaction. And that's one of the big traps with payment gateways, because if you're doing a lot of volume with low product prices, those transaction fees can really nail you, and they can really be a trap and hit your profits. So we've actually shared a resource, and we're going to share this with you guys, where we've mapped out all of the possible permutations and combinations of these different plans. So whether you're going to be doing WooCommerce with, PayGate, or if you're going to be doing Shopify with PayFast, we've got all the different combinations, and let's look at what the range of that is. So with WooCommerce, on average, if you're, selling, doing 100,000 Rand a month in sales with 100 different sales, you're going to be paying between 2,755 Rand and 4,125 Rand. Shopify, your starting point is 6,000 Rand, and that goes up to 9,000 Rand. With BigCommerce, it's about 3,500 Rand to 10, which gets a bit pricey, and Magento, too much. And actually, if you want to find the most cost-effective combination for South Africa, we've mapped it out for you. It's WooCommerce with Yoko and Xnilo. So WooCommerce doesn't charge any transaction fees, nothing. There's no transaction fees. The only thing you have to pay for is your hosting, which is going to be Xnilo, and you can get it as low as $100 a month. And Yoko, and if you're selling and doing transactions or sales per month of 100,000 Rand, your transaction fees are 2.6%. So you can get that cheaper, but you can have a bad time if you pick a poor quality host. So why is Shopify so expensive? Well, Shopify, you actually pay twice in South Africa. So if you read the fine print, and I'm going to challenge your transparency statement, it is in the T's and C's, but they don't publicly advertise the fact that if you don't use Shopify payments as your payment processor, you pay your transaction fees in addition to your payment provider. So let's say, for example, you're going to use Peach Payments, which is 3.5%, and you're on Shopify Basic, your transaction fees go up to 5.5%. And then in addition to that, there's all the other little fees, plus your Shopify fees. And at 6% of your monthly revenue, if your margins are low, that's going to really eat into your profits. And that's one of the reasons why like businesses are kind of cautious of certain platforms, is because it's all about efficiency. So if you're losing 3% just for being on a certain platform every month, that really starts to add up. So then we also look at development fees, right? So if you don't build your website yourself, which is the great thing about WooCommerce and WordPress, is that you really can do it by yourself. But say you want to hire a developer, WooCommerce developers are on average a lot more cost effective. And the reason is they don't need to code. They don't need to reinvent the wheel to make a great site. All of the solutions are already there for you. So you can use a beautiful theme like Astra and a page builder like Elementor, and then WooCommerce itself is free. So you can build a great looking site. And if you do need extra functionality, there's 90% of the time a free solution, or if you want a paid solution, it's generally more cost effective because of the amount of competitors out there. Because the community is so large, there are more options, more solutions, which bring down the average cost to implement a solution. And that's one of the great reasons why, as developers, as a website agency, we want to provide the most cost-effective solution for our clients. And that's why we go with Woo. So something that's a little bit special and dear to my heart, which is SEO, and why WooCommerce is the best platform for SEO. So quick crash course in SEO. What is SEO? Well, when you want to go buy something, you go to a search engine like Google, and you type in a keyword, and you get two sets of results. You get paid and organic. And search engine optimization, or SEO, is the practice of getting targeted traffic to a website from a search engine's organic rankings. So that's the part below the ads. Ads are above. We're not going to touch on this today, but they both fall under what I specialize in, which is search engine marketing. So why is SEO important? So if we look at where websites get traffic, 60% of all traffic comes from Google. And then if you bundle all the other search engines, so Bing, Yahoo, YouTube, search engines account for 70% of all traffic, and that's huge. So, you can't underestimate the value of SEO. And a quick poll again, how do you calculate the value of SEO for e-commerce? Do you know how to do that? Well, I'm going to show you, and it's actually quite easy. And once you understand it, you can really see why it's so valuable. So let's jump in. So let's say on Google, you rank at position 7, which means that you sit over here in the top 10 search results on Google. And let's say we've got a hypothetical e-commerce store and we're selling fancy water bottles, glass water bottles. And at position 7, we know the average click-through rate of a search result at that position is about 3%. So a click-through rate is the amount of people that actually click on the result and visit that site. And let's assume that you have a conversion rate of 3%, which is an average, healthy, good conversion rate for an e-commerce site. So if you get 100 people to visit your page, about 3% on average will buy. And that's a good industry average. And say we're selling our water bottle at $100 because it's an expensive, fancy water bottle. And let's say that there are about 10,000 organic searches for this product. So that's the number of people every month that are typing in glass water bottles or something akin to that. And here's the formula. It's actually really straightforward. You just multiply all the values together. And what you get is $900. So with these variables, at this position, you can expect to make 900 Rand a month in sales for your water bottle. So let's see what happens if we only change your position in Google and you climb the search engine rankings. Well, if you get up to this position 6, all of a sudden you've got a 33% increase in sales. And you can continue to do this as you climb. And what you very quickly see is that all the way at the top, you're getting 10 times the amount of sales by literally just changing your position on the search results. And this is insane. This means you're making like 10 times the amount of money per month for just your position in Google. And it gets really scary if you're not on Google. And let's see how this plays out in real life, right? So you have a website, which is a competitor, so website A, and they're getting all the positions at 1 to 2, and our client was ranking at position 5 to 7. Now, what we did is they said to us, like, can we use SEO to beat our competitor? And we said, yeah, for sure. And so what we did was we improved the overall positions for this search result. And what we saw was a 400% increase in revenue in just 2 months, which is fantastic. Like, I'd love to earn 4 times as much by just changing some numbers. And what's great about this client, they're on Shopify, and you can do SEO on Shopify. However, Shopify is only good for SEOing a product because Shopify is only focused on e-commerce. So if you try to use content marketing, like leveraging a blog, this is what happens when you try and, this is what Google says when it sees your blog. Whereas if you use a platform like WordPress and WooCommerce, what you can do is you can utilize your blog to attract customers and then cross-sell them onto your clients. So say, for example, we've got a client who's in the wedding industry. Well, they create something about wedding venues, a piece of content, and they don't sell wedding venues, but people who are interested in wedding venues are probably going to be buying things for a wedding. So we attract them with the wedding venue article and we move them across to the e-commerce component. And with WooCommerce, Google loves WooCommerce because it loves WordPress, and you can use the WordPress blog to leverage your WooCommerce store. And instead of your traffic graph looking like this, you can have your traffic graph look like something like this. And therefore your revenue, because you've got SEO friendly content, which means more traffic, and you can convert that traffic, you can get, instead of a 400% increase in revenue, you can maybe get a 1600% increase in revenue, which is great. Again, great power comes great responsibility. So I built a website in 2018. It was my own website, personal website. And I sold that website in 2019 to my supplier because they couldn't beat us with SEO because WordPress and WooCommerce. And everyone was happy. But then something went wrong. The traffic started to tank as soon as we sold the site. So this is when we gave them the site, and this is what happened afterwards. And the reason was because when we gave them the website, this is what our products looked like. They were beautiful, had all the relevant information. They were great products to look at. This is what a product looked like when they took over. Just an image, no descriptions, just a title. And this is the drawback of a platform, but you'll have the same issue with Shopify, is if you don't know what you're doing and you're not creating good content, Google's not going to reward you because Google wants, and you can give it all the clues to analyze your products. So this is what you should be giving it. And when you do that, this is what it looks like. You get these beautiful results on Google. And then they fixed that. They started adding proper products. And since then, it's been happy days. And they're absolutely crushing it online. Cool. And experts agree. It's not just me. All of these experts in SEO all agree that WooCommerce is the best platform for e-commerce SEO. So let's debunk 2 of my favorite misconceptions about WooCommerce. So first misconception is WooCommerce is not secure. And we get this one a lot because security is a valid concern for e-commerce. You want your site to be secure. You don't want to mess around. So, but this isn't something you need to worry about anymore. Maybe in the past, but if you build your site correctly and follow best practices, like using strong passwords, keeping your site updated, not installing sketchy plugins, you utilize security plugins and a quality host, use features like two-factor authentication or new login alerts, your site's going to be fine. The real security risk isn't platforms, it's people, All platforms are susceptible to human error. So when Karen uses the same password for every platform and then one of those gets leaked somewhere else, that's when they're going to get into your site. And Shopify can't protect you against that. No platform can. That's just, how the state of security in a modern world. And then my favorite one, WooCommerce doesn't scale.
Just need to wrap up in the next minute or so if you can.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I've got 2 minutes left. I'm timing.
Okay.
So WooCommerce doesn't scale. And I don't know if anybody here has ever scaled a business before. And I mean, truly scale. What you find is that WooCommerce, so people ask, like, can WooCommerce scale? And in short, yes. But with the right hosting provider, and the use of scalable tech like Cloudflare and good caching, you can scale a WooCommerce site and you can handle millions of visitors and transactions. There's no problem with that. But in real life, WooCommerce doesn't scale, but neither does Shopify, nor any other packaged solution. And that's because businesses don't scale. When you run an online business or any business, you have to take into account real world challenges. So shipping and logistics, cash flow, inventory and warehousing, customer service. And no tech solution is going to scale any of these things for you. If you want to build a business that scales, these are real life challenges with difficult solutions. And in fact, if we look at the top 10,000 biggest e-commerce websites, we find that only 6% use a known framework like Woo or Shopify. And all the other solutions use custom built from scratch solutions because scaling is hard. And when you reach that point, you want a tailored solution and you're not going to use a platform like Shopify. Amazon, Takealot, think of any big e-commerce brand, I almost guarantee you that they're not using a package. So until then, use Woo. And then, if you're scaling at that point, you can invest the money that you've made so far and build a custom website. And you should, and build your own infrastructure and support system. So what have we learned? Intellectual property. With Woo, you own your own site and are therefore also responsible for it. So great power, great responsibility. WordPress and the WooCommerce community, the largest e-commerce platform by numbers, huge support and an open source community, flexibility and customization. Do whatever you want with Woo. WooCommerce sites are easy to build and they look amazing. Cost effectiveness, operationally, 50% less than Shopify, plugins cost less, developers are more cost effective. Marketing potential, leveraging SEO. SEO is valuable for e-commerce and Woo is the best platform for SEO. Debunking some myths. WordPress can be secure when set up correctly. It's people that you need to worry about. WooCommerce can scale, but businesses don't. And that's the end of the talk.
All right. Thanks so much, Felix. I thought Shopify was going to run away with it, but you stepped in and cheesy dad joke, you've wooed us with your talk there. So thank you, both of you. It's now the time you've all been waiting for, the unedited, off-script battle of the platforms. So, few rules. No low blows, no turning off your camera, no name dropping, no name calling, no open source shaming, and no plugin or app bashing. All right? Well, maybe a little bit, but I'm going to let you take turns answering first. So I'll let you know who's going to answer first. I've got a few questions that are directed at each of you. You'll have 60 seconds to answer. The other person will have 60 seconds to reply. And if necessary, I will allow the debate to continue. I'll let you know, like a quick 30 seconds, maybe after you've each had a chance to chat. So without further ado, first question, I'm gonna go with a touchy-feely one. WooCommerce and Shopify both have communities with different flavors. For businesses that are here that want to connect with people and with community, why is your platform best? I'm going to hand this one to Melissa first.
Okay, well, this one is a tough one because Shopify is based in Canada, and overseas they have the most amazing community. And literally when I went over to Unite, I was blown away by the fact that they have such a close-knit community and that everyone made me feel so inclusive. And when I say they are hip and progressive, they are hip and progressive. They really just make you feel like they can do anything, they can take over the world. But that is really an international kind of community, and e-commerce is so small in South Africa, so it is kind of different. And when I came home, I had to hold on very tight to my international relationships to keep that community going. Having said that, locally, you know, you've got all the Shopify, like I stay very connected to my international community because I need it for my intellectual kind of knowledge. But I also have all the local groups, the local Shopify groups, the Facebook groups, those kind of communities. Facebook is great for that kind of stuff, and then there are e-commerce groups, and Shopify is very vocal on those e-commerce groups. You'll see it's generally Shopify and WooCommerce. Those are the two. You have some people going in for Magento. BigCommerce is tiny in South Africa, actually. So your big ones are Shopify and WooCommerce, and they're in the e-commerce space. So that's local kind of community, but international community is massive. And that really is where I get most of my community sharing from those kind of connections that I have.
Okay, great. All right, Felix, community, what do you think? Woo plus community.
Yeah. I mean, Woo has a great community, as we've shown by the numbers. WooCommerce and WordPress is the largest platform out there. 37% of all websites are built on WordPress, and 28% of all e-commerce websites are WooCommerce. So there's a huge community, and because of the open source nature of the community is very encouraging about growth and development. So people are willing to share their information. People create blogs, they create video content. There's also an active community even in South Africa and in Cape Town, because Cape Town is the home of WooCommerce. A lot of initial developers got their chops by building WooCommerce stores. So if you want to start an e-commerce store and you're in South Africa or in Cape Town, you can go to a meetup, COVID, willing. But last year, I met yourself at a WordPress community event at the WordCamp. I've given talks at local WooCommerce meetups. There's a very active and engaging community, and everybody's willing to share information and help one another grow. So yeah, the WooCommerce community is great.
Okay, it sounds like both of you have experienced great things with community. I think in my experience, WooCommerce community loves to talk about how to customize and build things and get into tinkering and all of that. Shopify is a little more like, how do I grow my business? So both of those are completely relevant, but that's the flavor taste that I've seen in my experience. Second question, let's move on. How popular is it for South Africans to sell to audiences abroad? And why is your platform the best for handling those kind of payments or multiple currencies or languages? What have you seen when it comes to that? I'll let Felix take this one first.
Yeah, so the thing about the internet is that's what we can do, is we can build a website from South Africa and we can sell anywhere in the world. And you're not limited anymore. If you want to build and launch a site in America, you can totally do that. And I've got a number of different case studies and examples of very successful businesses that are based in South Africa, which have launched and grown successful businesses overseas, whether it's through drop shipping or even shipping their products overseas. And we do that. We help a lot of clients that sell here and sell abroad, and they love using WooCommerce for that. So there's no limitation in terms of payment processing. Because WooCommerce integrates with everything, you can just pick your payment provider of choice and then that money can go into that account. Obviously, there are some difficulties with, maybe something like PayPal accepting foreign currency, but you're going to have the exact same. Those are challenges with the payment processor, not the platform. So, and on both platforms, you can experience the same challenges on that front. But in terms of what you can do, Woo is great for selling overseas.
Okay, great. Melissa.
Yeah, look, I'm going to have to concur with that. The payment processes are the problems in terms of multi-currency and conversion. That really is where we're stuck at the moment. But you can build a website. We've built multiple international websites. So we'll build we've just built a German site. We built it from South Africa, and we built it, for a German. It was very difficult because I don't speak German. But it's very easy to build a website wherever you are based. It's the pleasure of building what we do, building websites. Having said that, I do believe, payment gateways will always be a problem, and until we sort that out, we'll have that conversion issue. I think Shopify does beat WooCommerce just because it can do the Oberlo integration in terms of drop shipping. So, the integrations are outstanding with Shopify. So you can just, integrate any drop shipper into your Shopify site. So sorry, I'm going to have to say.
Great. Yeah, so if you aren't familiar with Oberlo, that's an app that Shopify owns that enables you to, if you don't know what you want to sell, you can connect to Oberlo and find products that you can drop ship, and you see the cost prices and you just add your markup. So that's what Melissa's referring to. Okay, great. I think you've answered that question. Let's move on. This one actually comes from one of our attendees. They asked, it's tied to another question I had as well, but if a giant retailer were to come to you and say, I'm using SAP, or is it SAP? I don't know, ERP system. I've got a ton of products in warehouses and retail stores, and all of my competitors are using Magento. What would you say to them about why they should come to Shopify, or if they can even come to Shopify? Because, a lot of people think it's not, for Woo and Shopify, that it's not capable of being like Magento. So I'm going to let, who did I get? I think Felix. No, I think Melissa, you go first on this one, and then it'll be Felix.
Okay. Yeah, so we actually get a lot of conversions like this. So we'll get a lot of conversions Magento to Shopify. And I think the real reason why we get so many conversions from Magento to Shopify is fee-based. So Magento is so expensive. And if you're going and you've got Magento fees of 20,000 Rand a month, plus on top of that, you've got your hosting, plus on top of that, you've got your, your security, etc. And then you've also you need to do an integration. So let's say you've got an inventory management system on an ERP and your accounting software, and you need to bring that all in. It's seamless to do it into Shopify, and you can do it, you can do it quick and fast. Your migration over is pretty easy. So, it's a no-brainer for us. We do it a lot of the time. We'll take, and we can handle huge inventories. We've recently done a store which had 15,000 SKUs. It wasn't a problem for us to take 15,000 SKUs over. The biggest issue with that was the pictures. It drove me insane. But apart from that, it's those kind of store migrations are not a problem, especially because the integration through, we have quite a few strategic partners who do our APIs for us, who can just sync them up. So those are nice integrations. Okay,
great. Felix, thoughts on?
Yeah, basically copy what Melissa said, except it's cheaper on Woo. So, if the business's primary concern is moving from Magento to Shopify because of cost, then WooCommerce is a no-brainer on that front. Especially with some newer payment gateways entering the market who are only available on WooCommerce. And one of the reasons why WooCommerce gets things first is because of that open source community. It's a lot faster to develop and build and release new technologies. So a lot of companies will launch on Woo first and eventually get to Shopify, because Shopify is harder to develop on. So Yoko, for example, we can go and we can get payment processing down to 2.5%, where if that's your concern and you want to go and maximize your margins, WooCommerce is absolutely crushing it on that front.
Would either of you, or let me just ask directly, have either of you ever turned down a project that you felt like was too big for the platform you're working on? So like the use case that I gave where ERP system, big multinational or something like that, where you're just like, my platform can't actually handle this. I'll let Melissa answer. I guess either of you, if you have an example, go for it, Felix. Yeah.
Yeah, like we actually turn down projects all the time. And it's not because I don't think the platform is good for it. I don't think any platform is good for it, which is my key thing is that if you really have a complicated business and want to do things properly, you should be building your own custom solution. If you're at that scale, that's when efficiency counts, and you're only going to maximize and get these efficiency when you build your own platform, which is why you see all of the 1,000 or the 10,000 biggest stores in the world, 94% of them all build their own custom solution. If you look at the top 50 websites in South Africa, most of them are all custom, because custom is better for handling complex sites, because you get that control and you get those efficiencies. So when we turn down a site, the only reason we're turning it down is because we're redirecting them to a custom solution and not directing them to like Shopify or something, a different existing solution. It's because we're telling them go do it properly.
And interestingly, this is where my business flourishes. So this is exactly our area of where we come in. So someone will come to us and they'll say our business is so big and our website needs to be this complex. That is where our challenge always lies, and that is where that is predominantly where all our business lies. Is that we'll have a company come in and they'll say we have a highly customizable build. It is super complicated and we cannot afford 20 million rand build. And we'll say, okay, we can do that for you for 100,000 rand. And truly, we have rivaled some of the most expensive builds using a highly customizable and very logical system like Shopify. And that's when I spoke about why I love Shopify so much, is because, and this is our speciality. This is why I'm Shopify's first female Shopify expert, is because this is what my business does, is that we never, I reject all the simple builds. We take the highly customizable, very complex builds and we say, how are we going to do this in a way that you can make it affordable? Because not everyone can afford a Woolworths site, and that's what they need in terms of complexity. And there are so many of our sites that are absolutely fundamentally customized and for a price that you couldn't even begin to think about if you were to do it from a full like startup build. And that really is what we do. And what Shopify can do, where you can't do that on another platform. You can't even do it on a Magento. You really can't.
Yeah. I guess that's the reality. In South Africa, you have people that'll build you a site for 1,000 rand, like a fly by night kind of thing, and you have the custom folks that won't touch anything for under 500,000. So it's such a massive need for anyone out there that's like, how do I get help? And I think with Shopify, like, sounds like Melissa, you guys do customization. I'm sure you charge more than someone who's just like putting together a site, but it's generally not going to get super expensive. Okay, cool. Do
you mind if I just jump like rebuttal on that one?
Sure.
So
30 seconds.
Yeah, I'd really like to kind of maybe contest that, because I checked out what your guys' pricing was, and when you said that you could build that kind of complex site for 100,000 rand, like according to your pricing model, like even at an 80,000 rand price tag, you're not getting the level of complexity that one would get with an equivalent WooCommerce store for about 40,000 rand. So I'm just curious to know where you can build such a complex site for 100,000 rand.
So I have quite a few NDAs, unfortunately, in place where I can't tell you our most complex one that we've just finished building. Trust me, it didn't cost us 100,000 rand. It cost us way more than that, and it took over a year to build. But it was seriously highly customizable, over 500 variants per product, massively complex, multiple pricing points. I'm not actually allowed to go into a lot about it, but our website is just a starting point for our pricing. But it really is, when I talk about highly customized builds, I can't, I mean, if we're doing 40 builds a year, I can't say our website is vaguely comparative to what we're actually doing.
Okay, so what you're saying is it does cost a lot more than just say 100,000 Rand for a complex site.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, a lot of them do, yeah. And I mean, they are super complex. They are super customizable. I mean, what are you going to spend, like a 40 million Woolies website kind of thing, you know, versus what you can get. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, yeah, you can do the same on Wither, which is great.
But can you? Because I don't know.
Let's move on. I'm going to do a question that's, you can reply if you want. I'm going to ask, it's directed at one of you. If you want to reply, the one that I'm not asking, you can, but it's more me taking you on for a second. So I'm going to start with Felix. So WooCommerce to me seems like it sits somewhere between being really techie and developer focused and wanting to be DIY. So it's like somewhere in between there. For people here that want to do it themselves, would you suggest WooCommerce? Like, do you think it's really viable for someone that's not techie at all?
Yeah, definitely. We
Why?
have so many clients who are incredible success stories, who built their very first site as a student or as a recent graduate, or someone who dropped out of a completely different industry and wanted to start selling something online, and they used Woo. And you can really do it yourself, and it's very easy. There's so many courses out there. We're launching one, but there's a lot of great ways to utilize the platform, and all the information is out there. It's not complicated, especially with the improvements upon Woo and the way and the platforms and the hosting service providers that basically set you up and they manage everything for you. So you just get the power of the platform with none of the headache of worrying about servers and scaling. And that's why we certainly recommend it for beginners.
Okay, good answer. I think I'm tempted to ask you what you would suggest your non-technical parent or grandmother or something if they want to build themselves, because when I worked at Woo, I would sometimes recommend Shopify, but that's neither here nor there. Move over to Melissa.
Yeah.
Okay, what is my question for you? Okay, open source and WooCommerce people love to talk about the ability to customize things, especially the checkout. So on Woo, they have a one-page checkout. There's a lot of emphasis on this like ability to completely change everything. I want to know, is the ability to customize the checkout a good thing? And I know Shopify is more restricted there. Is that something you think is a problem, or is that a good thing? Because I think there's differing opinions about that.
I think it is a good thing that you can't customize it. So on Plus, you're allowed to customize checkout. And it's remarkable. So we have 2 Plus stores. There are only 9 in Africa. And both of my Plus stores basically said to me, let's customize checkout. And I'm like, why are you going to mess with something that Shopify has put so much money into finessing? They have spent so much money doing the user journey to work out what is the best way to prevent, to create conversion there, to prevent drop off. And now you're taking something that we know works so seamlessly, works in a way that aids conversion, and you're saying, let's mess with it. So I know that from our experience, there are always problems. Like we always get, when we get a conversion from Woo, and I'm not blaming Woo for this, Felix. I'm blaming South African developers. So many of our WooCommerce sites that we have to convert are so dodgy. They just break all over the place. And someone will come to us and they will just say, okay, that's totally broken. It's absolutely broken, and we'll fix it. And I know the majority of the time, it's not the fact that Woo is completely broken. It's the fact that South African developers do not know how to build in Woo, and they'll bring us a site. But coming to that final checkout page where someone's messed with it and thought that they know better, I actually just get so frustrated. It's like we have gone through so much user journey, and Shopify has done all these testing and development and UX UI. Don't mess with the good thing. It works for a reason, and that's my opinion. Don't touch it.
Okay. Felix, do you want to say anything to that, or
Yeah, I'd love to jump in on that. So yeah, we also get a hell of a lot of Woo rebuilds. Well, we get rebuilds from every platform, but we also get a lot of WooCommerce enhancements or WooCommerce rebuilds. And that's because people with great power comes great responsibility. People pick poorly and they mess with things. But in terms of being able to customize your checkout, I do think there is a lot of value in the ability to have that choice. So what you can find when, a statement like Shopify has done a lot of market research and has optimized things, they've optimized it for the average type of business, or they've optimized it for averages. But sometimes you get outliers and you get different types of businesses and business models where you need to modify something like your checkout to get a greater conversion rate. And sometimes by modifying it, you can get incredible gains. And so I think it's more what I like to have is like, with WooCommerce, it's difficult to change the checkout unless you know where to look, but it's great that you have the power to choose. It's the same thing, in anything in life. Is like, well, people don't want to be restricted. They want to be able to have the choice. And if you use that responsibly, then I don't think you should be penalized for somebody who might mess it up.
And you know what? Interestingly, I think that kind of sums up many ways open source versus closed source mentality. You're very much open source, whereas I'm quite closed source in terms of I don't want people to feel that they have that responsibility when they really, I suppose, don't deserve it. Having said that, Shopify Plus, you can change your checkout if you think it is deserved.
How much does that cost, though?
Shopify Plus, it's the same as Magento. It's the same as Magento.
All right, last question, and then we're going to have to wrap up. So there is a camp that wants to see WordPress collaborate with SaaS platforms. So BigCommerce integrated into Shopify. Shopify used to have integration, like actual partnership with WordPress.com. And there's a guy, I forget the name exact plugin, but I think it's like WP Shopify that's actively building a plugin to make these things work. Gwyneth Paltrow's site Goop, GOOP.com, actually runs WordPress front end and Shopify on the for the shop, and they kind of match the designs. So I'm trying to find some middle ground here as Switzerland. Is there a world where WordPress and Shopify play together? And some of the things Felix shared about SEO and content management are true. Shopify's blog editor is not wonderful. So is there some middle ground here? Is there a world where these SaaS and open source tools work together to make something great? I'm gonna let Melissa go first, and then Felix, you can reply. We're almost out of time though, so try to keep it concise, please. Thanks.
Okay, first of all, I build on WordPress, and I think it is an amazing platform. I think that in terms of making something look beautiful, WordPress is so easy to use. It really is. It's simple and it makes things look beautiful. And from that perspective, I think it's fantastic. We're actually building a WooCommerce site at the moment, I have to be honest. But I hate it in terms of its its ease of use. And I do believe that the Shopify plug-in there, it would be a better solution than a Woo plugin, because e-commerce first, Shopify is e-commerce first. WordPress is amazing in terms of content and what it looks like and how it works, but Shopify is always going to be e-commerce first in terms of how it functions and how it processes and how it actually works as an e-commerce platform. So my opinion is beauty is WordPress, functionality on e-commerce, Shopify, hands down. That's me.
Cool. Felix, thoughts?
I've always been a tech agnostic, so I don't believe any platform is the best platform. So we've always had a rule of thumb at my agency: if somebody can bring along a better solution, we'll easily jump ship. Like, have no qualms about switching sides. The trouble is that we've tried both, and we've tried other platforms as well. We've tried Webflow, we've tried Squarespace, we've tried Wix, Weebly, you name it. We've done everything, and we keep coming back to WooCommerce because it just gives us what we want, and it's so easy. And I know that there's this idea that Shopify seems easier for, maybe it's more user friendly, but WooCommerce has grown so much in the last couple of years since it got acquired by Automatic. And since that that corporate backing started, feeding into the platform, it's become, an equal contestant in terms of user friendliness on the back end. So we don't see a reason to switch because we get the user friendliness and the power to do what we want very easily. So until that, but yeah, if it changes, I'm more than happy to look at any kind of collaboration.
All right, you two are both being too nice. I'm going to give you one last chance to give a final blow. I know you've both made great cases, great presentations, but I'm going to give you each a chance to say your last words on Woo versus Shopify. Let's, Felix, why don't you go, and I'm going to let Melissa end off since she gave the first presentation. We'll give her the final word, but let's hear it. Go ahead, Felix.
Yeah, well, there's something that kind of struck me very early on in Melissa's presentation, which was this concept of this kind of like perfectly scalable platform. And that's not what I found when I really dug into my research for this talk. And what I found is that there are big horror stories on days of like Black Friday launches or massive product launches where Shopify does fail. It's not this perfectly foolproof platform. So I want to know, how does Melissa explain, those cases? For example, because she used Kylie Jenner as a key example, I'm going to use a different makeup provider called Jeffree Star, and he had this big YouTube launch, and they supposedly had prepared it and was built with Shopify experts. And on the day of launch, the site crashed because it couldn't handle the load. So how can Shopify be this perfect platform, yet there are these horror stories where it does fail?
Okay, so first of all, I have heard that story, but please, you can't use that as an example because it would never have survived on WordPress, on WooCommerce. So you can't put that as an equivalent because that's just ridiculous, So yeah, of course they're going to be failures sometimes, but you have to compare apples with apples because WordPress would have died a horrible death way before you got there. So I understand that, but it's not equivalent. Yeah, so I do understand that there is nothing that's perfect. In terms of what I'd like to have as my rebuttal is, you spoke quite a bit about price. And like I said, when we have these, when I go into Facebook and we have these debates and it's WordPress versus, Woo versus Shopify, everyone's just like, it's price. And that's the closing argument. And I think that, Felix, you did an amazing job. My hat off to you. But once again, you always seem to knock us on, it's the price. And I want to say something to you. Even your document that you put out there, that document is not right. It's not what it looks like to me. Because I've got another document which shows what my prices look like. Am I back? Am I unstable, Joel?
No. I'm catching most of what you're saying. It's cutting out a little bit. I think you're okay.
Sorry about that.
Yep.
So basically, that whole document you put together, and you said that this would be the price on Woo versus this on Shopify. My document looks nothing like that. And I could actually share my screen now, because while you were talking about it, I pulled up my pricing, what it looks like, and I actually have the document I send my clients, which says this is when you're on Shopify, $29, this is $79, and this is $299, because these are your fees in terms of your payment gateway, this is your transaction fee, etc. My figures look nothing like yours, so you'd have to share yours with me, because I don't agree with your pricing structure.
Yeah, you can download it. I'd love to get your feedback on if that information is incorrect. But we had it checked by a number of different people who all kind of corroborated and came to the same number where if you take all the different combinations. So yeah, I'd love to see where your pricing is different.
Cool. All right.
And then the other thing is, I'm going to say, and this is what I say to most of my clients, buy cheap, buy twice. And that's what choosing your developer that's with choosing your agency, and that's with choosing your package. And never doubt that, because the amount of times I rebuild because someone's built cheap, because they've thought, oh, this is really cheap and I'm going to get it cheap and I'm going to, it's going to be great. And then I'm rebuilding for them in a year's time because they've done such a sloppy job. And I think that that's when we got to think sometimes Shopify just kicks butt in terms of, what you're getting. And that's me. And I still love Shopify. And yes, sometimes I build on Woo, and that's just because I'm being unfaithful.
All right. Thank you both very, very much. Yeah, I mean, on the pricing thing, I've also built some calculators and things like that. I think undoubtedly Shopify is more expensive, like Melissa said. Exactly how expensive, I think it really depends on what apps you're using and what WordPress hosting you're using. Obviously, as you get bigger, WordPress hosting gets more expensive, whereas Shopify isn't necessarily the case. Like, you're always paying those same fees. So there's some trade-offs there and some things to look at. I think, so yeah, thank you both. You did a great job with the presentations. I think this was pretty fun. I love that it got a little heated. I think that was super fun. And the fact that most people stuck around for this thing, even though we went over time, says a lot about just how exciting and how good of a job you both did. So my last thought is so no more questions, but my last thought is really for everyone, there's actually, maybe you can decide a winner for yourself based on what you've heard. But in my opinion, not just because I'm Switzerland tonight, not just because I worked at both platforms, but there really just isn't a silver bullet or a single answer for e-commerce platforms. It really depends what your strategy is, what your budget is, if you're going to build it yourself. There's a lot to consider. So I hope that you learned something tonight and have some questions and things that you can take away from this and figure out how to be successful online. But yeah, thank you all for attending. I hope you had fun. I'm going to hand it back to Dennis, who's going to just close us off. So Dennis, over to you.
Brilliant. Thanks so much. Thanks to all our attendees. That concludes today's session. Thanks again to Melissa and Felix for that robust discussion and debate. Did get a bit heated, but we love it. And I think it's great for everyone. Thanks, Joel, for acting as referee today. I'm sure we all have new perspectives on the Shopify and WooCommerce platforms, and hopefully some more clarity on which one is the best for our businesses. Before you leave, just a reminder that all sessions are being recorded, and you'll receive emails with links to them shortly. We look forward to helping you continue your journey of building a successful e-commerce business. Bookings are now open for our upcoming webinar taking place next week Thursday, and you can book now by clicking on the link in the chat. The title of this session is Why There Has Never Been a Better Time to Launch an E-commerce Business, and it's presented by Andy Higgins, phenomenal CV, been involved with Takealot, Bid or Buy, massive companies, managing director now of You Africa. We know that e-commerce is no longer a choice, it's now mission critical. Attend this session to find out how to cash in on the e-commerce wave now. Again, book by clicking on the link in the chat now. Please keep a lookout for further correspondence and all the social media posts from the Online X team about new Online X gatherings happening in the coming weeks. Thanks again for your attendance. Thanks to all our presenters. Thanks to Joel. Good luck with your online strategies, and goodbye.